I Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm excited to be giving a little review slash some of my thoughts on the Wheel of Time series. A 2-for-1. I've read the first one, The Eye of the World, and The Great Hunt, the second one. These are both by Robert Jordan. They are the first two books in a 14-book series. There's a lot going on in these combined 1,400 pages. So let's jump into it. So this one I read February, which is 3 months ago, and this one I finished last week. So if you are not familiar with this series, there's a lot to kind of run down if you're not familiar. I'll give a general plot. Some kids live in a little village and they get swooped up because they are a part of they're discovered to be a part of the prophecies and the legends of the land, and they get swooped up by these mysterious characters who take them from their small village as it's under attack. And in order to draw the evil attack away from their village, they escape with these mysterious figures. And it traces their journey, recognizing how they're a part of the prophecies and how they grow as characters, and there's a lot of fantasy stuff going on. This is not the video for the rundown, unfortunately. This one picks up where The Eye of the World ends off, which is them, namely one of the protagonists, Rand, recognizing himself as the sort of at the center of this whole prophecy of uniting the nations to defeat the Dark One. And it starts from there, him recognizing and sort of rejecting that, and then going on a journey, like a self-contained, almost episodic journey to assist his friends, but also further that prophecy. Let's jump into it. So, going into this, a couple things you need to know about me in terms of how I read fantasy, or read any books really. I am the kind of person who always reads for character. I love character growth, I love character development, I love relational things, all those sort of things. That's always my favorite thing about books. And a lot of my focus on these two books is going to be in relation to the characters, how I feel they're written, how I would like them to be developed, all that kind of stuff. With that comes a sort of goldfish brain in terms of I was constantly like, where are we? What are we doing? What is going on? So if you're interested in how the magic is handled in this book, I like it. It's cool, but it's not what I took away from this series. What I took away was the characters. So let's jump into it. I love the setup for these characters. The way they're written, the premise of them, the way that it's all set up is so exciting and so fun, and just so full of possibility, especially when you know going into it how long the series is going to be. At the core of this whole story, the core of the band of people who escape this village, the Two Rivers, or the Two River area, is these three boys slash men. Rand, Perrin, and Matt. Three young men in this village who are all believed to be the targets of this, the central targets of this attack. And I kind of love this. A lot of people argue, and I totally agree, that a lot of the beginning of this and the foundation of this Eye of the World series draws heavily on Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, which, I mean, don't we all always draw from the Lord of the Rings? But yeah, there's a lot of influences, there's a lot of overlap, and but what I loved about this was having three chosen one characters at the beginning, because it was like, whoa, this is such a fun idea to be like, we have a chosen one, but we don't know which one it is. And I actually wish that that was drawn out more. in the story, because it becomes pretty apparent who is the Dragon Reborn, the central character, just the way it's written. Like, thinking of this as like from a character's point of view, of not as the reader reading this kind of omnipotent narration of the story, but thinking like in terms of if I was one of the characters, like we have this chosen one and it could be A, B, or C, and we don't know, so we're going to take all three of you and then figure it out from there. I just kind of liked how that had a messy quality to it. I thought that was really fun. So, and the characters themselves, Matt, Rand, and Perrin, were great. They were pretty well defined. Next, the female characters. Primarily, I want to speak to, in this moment, the other two rivers characters. There's 5 from the small village who get swept up. Rand, Matt, and Perrin, and then the 2 women, Nynaeve and Egwene. I thought that they were super cool. I loved, again, at the beginning, like the first 150 pages of The Eye of the World, the messiness of it. There's kind of like frantic organization trying to get out of the village. There's this attack and everything's going off in this uncoordinated attempt, and these 2 women get swept up in it too. Nynaeve is the best. She's just so kind of grumpy and hot-headed and stuck in her ways. Yeah, I love the kind of begrudging side character slash support character who gets swept up because they care about the other characters, not because they actually care about what's going on. And yeah, I loved her arc in this first book of kind of recognizing that maybe she has more to play in this than she realizes, and there's more stuff going on not only in the lives of her friends but in her own life. Egwene, I was like lukewarm with her at the beginning, but again, as the book continued, I loved the eagerness in her character, the independence, the kind of wide-eyed wonder she went in. I thought she served a really great role in that way. So yeah, at the end of the first book I was like, I'm in, I'm sold, I love this. All the other characters were great. The world, really fabulous. The lore and stuff like that was like miles above my head. It's like holding on for dear life, like I hope this makes sense eventually. Yeah, it was really great. I think the thing that attracts a lot of people to these books and keeps them coming back, and definitely attracted me, was the living, breathing quality of the world. Cities and villages and nations really feel like a real place, like a real living, breathing place. That the other cities, even if we haven't met them, that there are politics going on, and that they're moving alongside all the other places, and everything is moving forward as this real world. That's all Eye of the World. That's all first book stuff. Now, this book. If you watched my last video, you know where this is going. I didn't love this one as much as the first one, which happened for a myriad of reasons. First of all, pacing. Obviously, people have talked about this before. Leaves a little bit to be desired. So pacing is not a huge deal for me, but I definitely recognize it as an issue in this book, and I know it'll come up again in the later books. This series is 14 books long, but I still want character development. Just because the book is long doesn't mean that we should start and end in the same place character-wise, and I felt like that's what this book struggled with. Characters developed in the first book, which is fine, even if it was like in leaps and bounds or in minute details, there was development. This book I did not feel the same way. I felt like in terms of attitude and perspective and worldview, there was a lot of similarities in a lot of the characters at the beginning and at the end. Mostly with Rand, I felt like he was a bit of a wet blanket throughout the whole book. He just came off to me as like a whiny child the whole time, and I just wanted more roots into that anger, more development of it, more resistance. I wasn't opposed to it, but I just wanted more than a surface level kind of anger, which is what I read it as. Matt and Perrin don't feature as heavily in terms of like central characters in this one, for me at least, which is fine. It's a big book and there's a lot of things going on, so I was happy to have them kind of alongside, but I still wish that there had been more things going on. I just felt like when we got to the end of this book, I was like, great, there were some really great moments in it, but I feel like we're in the same spot as we were at the beginning, and that was really frustrating because it's like, this is almost 700 pages long. I want to be in a different spot, and I just felt like we weren't with those three. The women, Nynaeve and Egwene, there was more development, but not in all the ways that I wanted. In this story, in this book, Nynaeve and Egwene go with the Aes Sedai, which is the kind of magical nuns, a group of women, because in this story the legends are that the world was tainted by the Dark One, and the magic source, the one power, was tainted as well, and that women can still use the magic source but men can't, and if they do, they'll just spiral down and go crazy. So they go to meet the Aes Sedai with Moraine, and they are training because they're both power users, and it kind of tracks the beginning of their training and things like that. That was all good. I loved all that. I love Nynaeve's chapter where she does the ritual, the trial, where she goes through the doorway 3 times and sees 3 different things. That I thought was really great. Loved that chapter. That was probably my favorite moment in the whole book. The part I didn't love was the sense of competition between the female characters. I didn't love, and this constant referral to, oh, so-and-so is much better at talking to girls than I am, thing that was going on, which just, I'm done talking about it. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just didn't love it. It happened frequently enough that I was like, okay, I'm ready to put this down. It just bugged me that there was no opportunity for the men and women to just be friends and to just chill out. I wanted to highlight, I don't normally tab books, but I tabbed these 2 spots just because it really kind of is what I mean. It explains what I mean. This is when Egwene meets Elaine. Elaine asks, is Rand well? And then immediately, the first reaction, Egwene felt a sudden stab of jealousy. Elaine was very pretty, but over it came a stronger stab of fear. And it's just this idea that because Elaine knows Rand, Egwene's first reaction is to be jealous and to see her as like an enemy and not a friend, which I don't know. I don't know if this is just a me problem. There's this idea that men and women can't be friends, or like that it's always a competition between women, and I just was not having it in this book because these characters are so cool and I just think they're so cool, but that there was this kind of overarching theme that they need to pair up by the end of this, or there needs to be some sort of romance for everyone. I'm not against like a justifiable romance, but every single character I was like, okay, like, can we have development of other kind, please? And to demonstrate this, Nynaeve and Lan, like that whole thing, I was like, beautiful. So looking forward to this because it felt a little more earned, a little bit more like, I don't know, I just believed it more than this constant bickering and constant competition between some of the characters in terms of like, oh, maybe she'll marry him, maybe I'll marry him, maybe. So, and that's kind of the gist of my review of these first 2 books in this light of how I read them in terms of characters. I love the characters, and I'm looking forward to continue reading. Obviously, I'm reading the 3rd one now. This isn't to say that I'm off the books. It's more of, I love these characters already. Already I cherish them. But I just felt that the writing in the second book, the characterization of them in the second book was not true to what I'd hoped or saw them developing, or what I think could be them at their very best. So those are my thoughts. That's what I've been thinking, and I'm excited to continue this journey of Wheel of Time. Obviously the series is coming out at some point this year. I'm interested in all that aspects of it too, the production, the set design, editing, all that kind of stuff. So I'm looking forward to that. And that's kind of why I'm powering through these books as well, so I can watch it. That's everything I got. I'll be coming back at you with another video probably on Saturday. I'll say Saturday. Feels good, feels right. That's everything. Hope you guys have a fabulous afternoon, evening, morning, brunch time, day. Bye.